Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, the U.S. Senate takes a test vote on immigration reform. We'll look at the procedural path for the landmark immigration bill. We'll hear about a new study that compares the outcomes of integrative and traditional medical care. And we'll look at ideas for a proposed streetcar for downtown Tempe. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. The U.S. Supreme Court today sent a Texas case on affirmative action back to a federal appeals court. The move leaves affirmative action programs in place, but sets the stage for future challenges. Also today, the High Court reinstated a death sentence of an Arizona man convicted of killing another man 35 years ago. The court overturned a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling that tossed out the death sentence of Edward Shadd. For a full recap of the session's noted Supreme Court cases, join us next Monday as ASU law professor Paul Bender reviews the High Court's decisions. The U.S. Senate today voted on a border surge amendment to the Comprehensive Immigration Reform Bill, or at least voted on whether or not to continue debate on that amendment. Here to talk about the cloture vote and other procedural moves involving the Immigration Reform Bill, we welcome Patrick Kenny, Dean of ASU School of Social Sciences and a political science professor. Good to see you again.
Good, thank you. Happy New Year.
Today's vote basically ended debate, right? Cloture vote here?
That's right. So the Senate's a really unique institution, and for a long time, throughout its history, senators have the right to talk as long as they want, to debate a topic on the floor of the Senate. And it got so difficult to get to a vote that the Senate put in rules, the last change about 30 years ago, where you could vote to end the debate. Debating, non-stop debating is known as a filibuster. You can vote to end the debate. It's called a cloture. Right now the rules say you need 60 votes to end debate or vote a cloture, and that's what they did.
And that's what they did, and this allows now for future votes here coming up, I would imagine, right quickly on, first of all, the amendment. Talk about the amendment to the big bill.
Right, so the amendment to the big bill is to tighten or increase dramatically, actually, border security to the tune of something like $30 billion. They call it a surge, kind of reminiscent of what we did in Iraq. We'll send a lot more border security agents there, tighter, more fencing. And the main reason the Senate is interested in this is to encourage Republicans to come on board with the broader immigration bill. Because Republicans, in particular conservative Republicans, have been very concerned about the bill, certain aspects of it, especially the path to citizenship. And they have always argued all along that they want the border secured first. So this is an effort to secure the border first and then move on the broader bill.
And today's cloture vote suggests that enough Republicans have gotten on board.
That's right. It looks like there's 52 Democrats in the Senate, so they had to pick up Republicans to get to 60. We quickly glanced before. It looks like there's about 67 votes. So they picked up anywhere from 12 to 15. I haven't seen the actual votes, but anywhere from 12 to 15 Republicans, it looks like.
And we're talking, again, unmanned surveillance drones. You're doubling the Border Patrol agents, I guess doubling the 350-mile fence to 700, something along these lines.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like they're being put in place over the same amount of time it would take for some of those permanent resident card folks to actually get their cards,
right,
correct?
Exactly. So implementation of this kind of thing is going to take quite a while. And part of this notion is that this has to be in place before we can actually start activating a lot of paths to citizenship. So it delays things a little bit, and I think that a lot of the people that are concerned about it, that helps them a little bit.
Now, where did this idea for this surge come from? Because it sounds as though money was found. What the Congressional Budget Office said, hey, look at the big bill means what, more money?
Right, so there's been a lot of people estimating what it costs. One of the most reputable estimates often comes from the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office. It's known as a kind of a nonpartisan look. They got a lot of talented analysts up there on Capitol Hill that work for the CBO, and their estimates over the long haul is that the immigration bill will actually reduce government spending over the long haul, and so they're arguing that some of that could come from this. So it won't be revenue neutral, of course, but it is a way for the Republicans who are concerned about the size of the government spending on this to go on board with this much spending toward the surge.
I was going to say, I'm curious, from the Republican angle, I mean, that's a lot of money there.
That's
just
a lot.
For anything, it's a lot of money.
Right.
And yet, it's being used to justify moving forward with this legislation.
Right, right. So This is a really important step, I think, in the negotiations, right? So this Gang of Eight, which are 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats, have moved this debate much further than we had even back in '06. Most likely the reason that the Senate is very interested in this is because of the election results that we saw in the last 2 presidential elections. The Latino vote is growing in the country, and especially last time was whoppingly lopsided for the Democrats. And there are certain areas and crucial states like California and a lot of the Southwest that if the Republicans don't at least work on immigration, these blocks of states start to move out of their possibility of winning that, starts to change their dynamic dramatically. So I think a lot of forward-looking Republicans, John McCain, Jeff Flake in particular, are saying, wait a minute, we need to engage in this debate and start thinking about this issue.
So this is bipartisanship, maybe out of necessity for some, but bipartisanship nonetheless. Encouraging sign?
Yes, probably, because this is a hard issue. And those of us that study American politics always argue elections really do make a difference. And sometimes they make more dramatic differences than others. And this is a case where I think the election really made a dramatic difference. And it's forcing a lot of senators to sit down and talk that haven't done before. And you're right, bipartisanship has really been in fits and starts over the last 15 years. But after some elections, you've seen these kinds of activities.
With that in mind, we still have the House to go through. Now, first of all, what are you seeing from that? I mean, Senator Rand Paul basically said, I know what goes on in the House, and this thing is dead on arrival. Has he got a point there?
He has a point, because the Republicans, you need 218 votes in the House to pass this, and the Republicans have more than 218. If the Republicans want to stand in the way of this, they can without any real big difficulty, at least at the moment. Doesn't mean they might not have problems later, but they can if they want. We'll see. This kind of amendment is aimed not only at the Senate, but is aimed at the House as well, right? So they're hoping to build some coalitions in the House.
In terms of just in general politics back on the Hill, when the Senate shows this much bipartisanship, does it not often seep over into the House?
Yeah, so historically, yes. The last 15 years, harder to predict. But historically, yes. Okay, there is a group of Republicans in particular in the House, in particular, who've been opposed to this kind of legislation all along, dating back 8-10 years. And they're actually in larger numbers than they were. Okay, so the question for the Republicans is the question for the Democrats really, or for the Senate in some kind of compromise, is can they put together a coalition of mostly Democrats and some Republicans, right? That's what they'll be trying to do in the House. And I think it's probably possible, given what we're seeing in the Senate.
Yeah, okay, so I guess we'll have to see. Bottom line, if this goes through, McCain, Flake, President Obama, are all considered winners?
I think so, yeah. I think most likely, yes. And if it goes through, there's many Republicans who can vote against it and have it still go through, right? So that would be okay in their own constituencies, maybe, if that's needed. But yes, I think overall, if you take the long historical look, we needed to do something on this issue. I mean, this is a very long, complicated border with Mexico. Mexico is an ally of ours. We need to figure this out over the long haul. This is probably a good thing.
Last question, very quickly. Will Democrats be hurt more? I know a lot of liberals aren't happy with this border surge, quote unquote. Right. Will Democrats be hurt more by the border surge, or will Republicans who vote for this be hurt more? We're talking next primary season.
Right. That's exactly where the problem occurs, is in the primaries, right? Because the primaries tend to be more ideologically concentrated of voters from each of the two parties. So we'll have to see that. But that is exactly their worry. It's a little hard to predict now. We're a little too far out because you don't know who's going to emerge. But you are seeing some compromise on a complicated issue, and I think that's probably a good thing.
All right. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, you're welcome.
We want to hear from you. Submit your questions, comments, and concerns via email at arizonahorizon@asu.edu.
The University of Arizona Integrative Health Center in Phoenix is starting a new study to compare outcomes for patients treated using integrative medical care with patients treated using only conventional care. Here to talk about the study is Dr. Heidi Rula, Medical Director for the U of A Integrative Health Center. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Is that what you're going to be looking at here, kind of a compare?
Yes, what we want to look at is to compare the health outcomes for patients who are receiving integrative care, integrative primary care, versus those who are receiving conventional medical care. To date, there have been no well-designed research studies comparing integrative medicine to conventional medicine. You know, it is our belief that that patients will have better outcomes, both health and healthcare financial utilization. And so we really are looking to put together a study to be able to develop the data to prove this information.
Define integrative medical care.
So integrative medicine is whole person medicine. It is really addressing the person, mind, body, spirit, really going into lifestyle issues, developing a partnership with a patient where the patient and the physician work together as partners. It is also a medicine where we have collaborative care, working together as a team versus just having the physician direct the patient's care.
With that in mind, define conventional medical care.
So conventional medical care is generally accepted as being kind of Western standard medical care that's delivered here in the United States.
So how, when you do this study, you have the integrative care, the whole person, I think is how you describe it, the whole person care with conventional care. Don't they mix often, or do they not necessarily mix?
Well, so integrative medicine is about combining evidence-based therapies, both from the conventional and from either complementary or alternative medicine world. So it's really saying that there's value in all these forms of healing and looking for the best and looking for options for patients, because not everybody is going to have the same treatment plan. So the more that you can have in terms of different healing modalities, the more likely you are to have a match for that patient.
So basically, it sounds like it opens up the horizon, opens up possibilities that may not have been open before?
Absolutely. Obviously giving you more, as well as kind of, again, seeing the patient as a whole. So seeing the patient kind of as not only, we use energy medicine, so things like acupuncture and healing touch and things like that. So we are acknowledging that there's an energetic piece to a patient's health. We are acknowledging, that there's a spiritual aspect to a patient's health. Those are things that in conventional medicine we tend to look at a patient more on a biochemical level, that if this is out of whack, we give this, we get a drug for this. And so, but this is kind of understanding that there is kind of more to health than just kind of the biochemistry.
Has there been a reluctance in conventional medicine, Western medicine, if you will, to consider seriously integrative medicine?
I think that there's been some pushback on really kind of looking at this as evidence-based medicine. Some of these things are really kind of outside of the realm of what most people have been experienced in their medical school training. So to kind of accept some of these concepts, just like energy medicine, that plays a role in health. I mean, these are things that most physicians really haven't interfaced with. So I think to look at that piece sometimes people might see it as more woo-woo medicine,
sure.
or
Sure.
those sort of things, and not really based in science. But the wonderful thing about kind of integrative medicine is that there's more and more research being developed looking at the effects of these different forms of healing and how they really alter a patient's biochemistry, so that I think more of the conventional physicians can start understanding it as to how it is going to impact a patient's health when you actually have a study kind of showing that impact.
So talk about the study. How long is it going to be? Who's going to be involved? And how exactly do you compare and contrast here?
So this study has been designed by the University of Arizona Center for Integrative Medicine to really measure the both financial and health impact of integrative medicine in the primary care setting. we are looking to, study a number of different health measures, looking at not only things like how well are patients' chronic medical conditions handled, what is patient satisfaction, in receiving integrated medicine versus conventional medicine, what's their quality of life, what is their healthcare utilization, what are their healthcare costs, and so that's going to be accomplished by looking. Right now, Maricopa County employees are eligible to be voluntarily enrolled in our study, and we're also looking at working with other corporate settings where they could do something similar. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at those measures and compare them to the claims data on patients, which is all kind of an anonymous type of setting. But we're going to look at the claims data on patients who are just receiving conventional care and be able to look at how somebody does, in the integrative arena versus how somebody does in the conventional arena.
And when it's all said and done, when you get your facts, when you get your figures, how do you utilize this information? How do you implement? Will it mean implementing changes?
Well, the reason we really wanted to do this study was that we feel that our current model of healthcare is broken. That right now healthcare costs are skyrocketing to kind of an unsustainable level, and we have kind of developed a new model of healthcare that we feel, again, patients will have better outcomes with. But we really needed the evidence to be able to demonstrate that. So this is going to serve as collecting that initial data to take to policymakers to be able to have a conversation to say that yes, if you really spend money on the front side, if you look at prevention and having patients be able to spend time with their physicians and really kind of delivering this whole person medicine, that those patients will do better and cost the system less. Right now, we're very much a disease kind of oriented type of healthcare system. So we wait till people get sick and then we go out and spend a lot of money on delivering care once they develop a disease. We want to roll that back and really kind of focus on prevention so that patients don't develop a disease. There's a lot that can be done in the prevention arena that we think can have a huge impact on this kind of healthcare epidemic that we're having with obesity, heart disease, infant mortality, all of these things, we see as being a problem with our system and really kind of having a real lifestyle issue to our country that is not being addressed in our current model of healthcare.
Well, we'll keep an eye on this study. It sounds like fascinating information there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
The federal government recently approved a 2.7-mile streetcar track for downtown Tempe. The city is considering 2 different routes for the streetcar line. And here to tell us more is Tempe City Council member Shanna Ellis. Good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you.
This is definitely going to happen, correct? This is not so much a proposal, but how are we going to do it?
Well, that's how we believe. We have been working with the federal government, the FTA, hand in hand on this, and we were submitted for project development. And so that means that they're kind of holding our hand through this process. We have a couple more steps that we need to do before our final submittal, but we believe that it will happen.
Okay, and we're talking a streetcar, not a light rail system. Define the difference.
Correct. A streetcar, it does look a little bit like light rail. If people have seen the modern streetcar in Portland, this is the model that we're using. It actually runs in the lane of traffic, so in that aspect it is different from our light rail system. The stops are much closer and the stations are much smaller. The construction also will be a lot less.
So basically not so much of an impact on businesses down there while this is being constructed.
Correct. Portland's experience has been that they could do 3 blocks in 3 weeks, and they could open the lanes of traffic during the evenings for people to be able to still travel on.
So what is, before we get to the routes here, the competing routes, what is the streetcar designed to do? What is this project designed to do?
Well, there's a lot of pieces of value that we believe it will add to our community. First and foremost, it will be able to offer additional mobility options to our residents. Will be connected to our existing transit system. It will be run by Metro Rail that runs our light rail system, and also will integrate with our bus system. And we've seen those numbers just go through the roof in the last few years. People are riding transit in record numbers, and so this is just a piece of the transit network that's out there.
So is this a people mover, a student mover, or a downtown mover?
Yes.
Or, yes, to all. Yeah, okay, so it's
Yes.
all of those. So let's talk about the routes here, because
Okay.
I find this is fascinating stuff. Like you're planning a city here. The first one is called the Apache Rio Salado option. What are you looking at here?
Okay, well, yes, the first option that we're looking at is shaped more like a C. So it starts behind the ASU Stadium at Packard Drive, and then it would turn south down Mill Avenue, and then it would turn east at Apache, which is where Gamage is, and go all the way to Rural Road. The second option that we're looking at starts at Rio Salado and Mill. It's shaped more like an L, goes south to Apache, and again turns east. But it would connect to light rail at Terrace, which is just east of Rural.
Now, we're looking right now, the red line, the Apache Rio Salado, and on both, both angles for Apache Rio Salado and the one stop for Apache there at Terrace. Are those turnarounds, basically?
The downtown area is an actual loop. It
Okay.
runs counterclockwise, and that is to avoid some utilities that are in the street, so it makes it a lot less expensive. The other line that you see through there is the existing light rail line.
Yes.
So people can see how it does go in a circular motion.
And benefits and maybe the pluses and minuses of each option. What are you seeing? What are you hearing out there?
Well, we are gathering public input on this now. We've had an open house that had about 80 people attend, and they gave some input. And online, we're collecting some input. People can go to valleymetro.org/Tempe Streetcar, and that's through June 30th. But there's some additional studies that need to be done too. We need to find out how expensive it is to move existing things that are underneath the street and that type of thing. So the council will be weighing in all of those options in the fall, and then making a recommendation to the region and ultimately to the federal government.
Originally, I know that the streetcar line was supposed to actually go further down Mill Avenue, I think the southern, somewhere around those lines.
Correct.
That didn't seem to last very long. What happened?
Well, it did. It lasted quite a few years, but we received feedback once we submitted our application to the federal government that area wasn't an area that was ripe for economic development or for additional population growth. It's mainly single-family homes, and because it's federal government money, we need to abide by their criteria, and they felt that either one of these routes would have a higher chance of being funded with their dollars. Another main thing that a streetcar would do is the economic development potential that it has.
I think everyone who's been along Apache Boulevard in Tempe can see what light rail has done for that area. It's just almost ridiculous how that place has changed.
Yeah, $1.4 billion in investment, and we have $7 billion back already. So we know that with permanent infrastructure, actually putting tracks in the street, that we do have additional businesses and residents that will be located along the streetcar route.
Traffic concerns, especially on Mill Avenue with the streetcar in the street. Studies done. What are you seeing out there?
Well, because it shares a lane of traffic, we don't believe that it will have much of an impact. There are buses going up and down Mill Avenue now that have stops, and we're hoping that people will take the streetcar instead of traffic. One of the things that I think is great are those billboards that are out there that say you're not stuck in traffic, you are traffic. If people have an additional option for transportation, their trip doesn't seem to take as long.
And last question here. It looks as though, I would guess, there would be opportunities for expansion. The one that stops at Packard, I can't see why you wouldn't go all the way to Tempe Marketplace. And maybe the one that stops at Rural, maybe on the way to Mesa. Is any talk of that?
Yes. Actually, I've had some conversations with some officials in Mesa. They would love to see it go to their Cubs Stadium. ASU would love to see it go through their stadium district. We've talked to Chandler. They would love to see it there. And additionally, Phoenix is doing a study south on Central from their light rail line to see if a streetcar could be something they could do in the future.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Tomorrow on Arizona Horizon, hear how Arizona cities and towns feel about sales tax reform and learn about the history of Legend City, a former theme park that debuted 50 years ago. That's Tuesday evening, 5:30 and 10 on Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.